Hello, and welcome to another episode of Excellent Sports Talk. I am your host, Mark Bradley, and welcome to another week of the show. And as always, I am glad that you guys are here and that we are going to go ahead and discuss some more great topics as we always do. So let's dive straight into it. To be so first we're going to talk about Steve Nash and him accepting a deal to become the Brooklyn Nets next head coach for next year. So we're going to go ahead and discuss that. And then we're going to also discuss the NBA playoffs, of course, because they're going on. It's basically the second round now, and it's going straight into it. So we are going to speak on that as well. And then we are also going to talk about the NFL. The NFL is right around the corner, like literally right around the corner. It's set to begin next this Thursday coming up. And we're going to go ahead and give our week one predictions of who we think is gonna win week one. So that's basically on the schedule today. So let's get right into it. So if you guys want to go ahead and comment or anything of that nature, by all means, I will be glad to respond. As always, we can have a lot of interaction, and yeah, we can do big things. So let me go ahead and change some stuff before we get into it. So Brooklyn Nets. So let's get into the Brooklyn Nets. Recently just hired Hall of Famer Steve Nash from the Phoenix Suns. Signed a 4-year deal to become the next head coach of the Brooklyn Nets. And I think this came to a surprise to everybody because Steve Nash has no coaching experience at all. He has no front office experience, no coaching experience. And now he's the head coach of the Brooklyn Nets, right? So I think this came to a surprise to everybody in the league. This was mind blowing for me when I first saw it. I was like, wow, Steve Nash out of all people, Brooklyn Nets head coach. That's an interesting one. So before he was the Brooklyn Nets head coach, he was more in a consultant role for the Golden State Warriors when they was making their championship runs with Kevin Durant and Clay and Steph, of course. And, KD, who's now officially in Brooklyn, he was a big factor for Steve Nash getting the job in Brooklyn. I mean, of course, you have to go through just the star guy to really make that push for a head coach. Because if the star player is not happy, then it's a lot of drama, and it could go south really quick. So obviously, Kevin Durant was okay with this decision. Of course, he worked closely with Steve Nash while they were both in Golden State at the time. And obviously, Kyrie Irving must be on board with that decision as well, because Kyrie Irving is, of course, a superstar, and he does have a big say-so in who's going to be in Brooklyn. So that's basically how Steve Nash got there. But it has come with a lot of backlash with his hiring, and one of them was Stephen A. Smith, who is the analyst for ESPN. A lot of people know him, and we all know Stephen A. to speak his mind, and he did exactly that with this hiring. And what he said was this is, and I'm basically paraphrasing. He said that this hiring is a big case of white privilege with the hiring of Steve Nash in Brooklyn. And the reason why he went out and made that statement is because, there's a lot of African American coaches who are very credible, and has a little bit more experience than Steve Nash in coaching, such as, Tyronn Lue, who's the assistant coach for the Clippers right now, Jason Kidd, who's the assistant coach for the Los Angeles Lakers right now. He has some coaching experience. And Sam Cassell, who's also an assistant coach for the Los Angeles Clippers. He's just been kind of waiting for his shot to finally reach that NBA head coaching position. And that it could have been a valid point. I mean, to be honest, in my personal opinion, I thought that was a pretty big reach for Stephen A. to say that this is a white privilege, because we all know Steve Nash as during his Hall of Fame career with the Phoenix Suns, he had one of the best IQs in basketball. Like he knows the game of basketball. And he's one of the smartest players to ever play the game. And yeah, I thought it was a little bit rich saying like this is white privilege. This is it could have been other players. Look, I'm saying, it could have been a valid point. That it is other coaches who are black that has that experience that Steve Nash does not have. Now, the reason why I think this was the hire for Brooklyn was because they're trying to recreate what the Golden State Warriors did by bringing in Steve Kerr, who was another guy who didn't have coaching experience. He just had front office experience as a GM with the Phoenix Suns back in like the early 2010s. And Steve Kerr came in right into a good situation with the Golden State Warriors, who was basically was getting to that really good level, but they needed that extra push and motivation that they did get from Steve Kerr. And Steve Kerr just took that team by storm, and they won championships. And so I think this is the same approach that the Brooklyn Nets are trying to recreate, because here's another guy, Steve Nash, who's a likable guy. Everybody loves Steve Nash. He's one of those people who's easygoing guy who gets along with everybody, who gets along with everybody, especially within the basketball community. Everybody loves Steve Nash. So I think this is one of those times where they're trying to recreate that magic that the Warriors is having. And I mean, just to think, I mean, with Steve Nash most likely going to be a player coach with the Brooklyn Nets, I mean, you basically just have to manage, egos with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, because let's be 100% honest. When you have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving on your team, you're going to get wins. You're going to get wins because that's two maybe top 10 players in the NBA. I don't know if I would put Kyrie Irving as a top 10 player because he gets injured a lot. So what's going on, Shanghai? How you feeling, man? I appreciate you coming through to the show. Thank you for coming out. Yeah, so it's basically you're going to get wins with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving on your team. So you don't really need Steve Nash to just get you with some X's and O's type coaching, because I don't think that's going to be Steve Nash's role at all. I think Steve Nash is just going to be there, just let Kyrie Irving and KD just do whatever they want, and just go from there. They're going to get wins. Now, I mean, I don't know how well it's going to work out, because look, when you had the Golden State Warriors, I mean, that team in itself was just absolutely amazing. Like they was ready to make that leap with Mark when Mark Jackson was there, and they was coming into their own. Of course, you remember Steph Curry had his ankle injuries, and now that he's been healthy, he was healthy for those years that they made the championship run. They just had so much talent on that team. I don't know if that's going to be the same for Brooklyn, but I mean, hey, we'll see. I could be wrong, but look, I was surprised just as anybody else to see Steve Nash um to be the next head coach. And like I said, going back to the Stephen A. Smith situation, it was pretty that was a interesting hot take to really hear him say about white privilege, and this was that moment. But I mean, hey, look, people have their opinions, and some people is going to think that he's right. Some people is not going to think that he's right. But look, that was a touchy subject. But look, at the end of the day, Steve Nash, I think he's going to do a great job in Brooklyn. I think people are going to love playing for him, and I think at this time, with as much talent as the Nets do have, what he said, hiring Steve Nash with all white privilege. Shanghai, this is what he said. What Stephen A. Smith said about white privilege is like other African American coaches, such like Tyronn Lue, who's the assistant coach for the Clippers, Jason Kidd, who's the assistant coach for the Lakers, and Sam Cassell, who's kind of waiting for his opportunity to be a head coach. So he's also the assistant. They had a little bit more experience than Steve Nash, who has no coaching experience, no front office experience at all. How he got the job, other than those other candidates that's kind of waiting for their job. So that's kind of what Stephen A. Smith was kind of getting at as far as white privilege. Steve Nash being a Canadian. That's kind of what he was getting at, and that was a pretty steep, bold statement of Stephen A. But I mean, all in all, Steve Nash is there, so it's nothing. It's nothing that he can do now. So it is what it is. So that's basically it for that topic. We are going to go ahead and continue on with the next topic, and that's the NBA playoffs. The NBA playoffs has been going through, and it's into the second round now, and it's been a shocker. It's been a shocker in the NBA playoff second round. And so the east side of the playoffs has been kind of full speed ahead. They had their teams pretty much set, so they've been going a little bit faster than the Western Conference. And they're already going into like their third and fourth games of their series. And so, you know what? Let's go ahead and begin with that. Let's begin with the Raptors and the Toronto Raptors and the Boston Celtics series. And it's been a tough series to watch, because in the first round, I thought Toronto was primed to make it at least to the Eastern Conference Finals, but that has not been the case, because Boston Celtics has been playing out of their minds for the first two games, and it was this close for winning Game 3. You had Kemba Walker, who made a great pass to their center, and I can't say his name to save my life. I'm not even going to try, so let's go ahead and move on. With 0.5 seconds left to go, and I thought Boston had Game 3 wrapped up. I was like, man, you got to get a win after that pass, because Kemba Walker was so unselfish, and by luck, I don't know. I don't know luck or what it was, but If it wasn't for a desperation 3-pointer from OG Anunoby to win the game last night, I thought it would have been a sweep. I thought it was going to be a sweep. I thought Toronto was going to get out. If they played better man-to-man, Celtics would have won that, but it was still a great buzzer beater. It was. It really was. That was a desperation heave. That was like a catch and shoot. That he got the ball out so quick and it went in. And look, that was a great shot. That saved their season 100% because it was over with. It was over with. It was over with. If OG Anunoby didn't hit that shot, and so with going into the next game, Toronto has to win this game. They have to win Game 4, or it's a done deal. It's going to be a wrap for the series if they do not get this game. And I think Toronto is going to handle their business and get this next game because they're going to ride the high of this buzzer beater and go into Game 4 and get a win and tie it 2-2. It has to be some type of competitiveness in Toronto as defending champions, not to just lay down and roll over and let Boston just move on to the Eastern Conference Finals. Not going to happen. But at this point, I think Boston still is going to win the series, but I think it's going to be a little bit tougher than people is giving it credit for right now because right now it has been looking real shaky for Toronto. But I think they're going to find a way to get this Game 4 game and then tie up the series, and we'll have to see. It's up for grabs after that. I think Boston still is going to win the series, but you never know. You never know. So we're going to go ahead and continue to the Miami Heat and the Milwaukee Bucks, and I think this is the biggest shocker of the whole playoffs. The way Miami Heat is dominating the Bucks at this moment. And to be quite honest with you, and to be real with you, I think Miami has a better basketball team than the Milwaukee Bucks. Okay. And here's why I say this, right? Okay, we all know Giannis is going to be the MVP it's going to be the MVP of this season, which rightfully so. I mean, they had the best team. He put up great numbers. He's going to be MVP of the team, but I think the supporting cast around Jimmy Butler is just a little bit better than Milwaukee. Because let's be real, Bam Adebayo is becoming a star player. I don't know if he's going to make it to that superstar level, but he's a star player. He's an above average player. And then also, Duncan Robinson is a legit shooter. He can score anytime, anyway. If you leave him open, that's a 3-pointer at all times. Tyler Hero is a bucket. He's one of those underrated draft picks coming out of Kentucky. He just balled out all year. And then you have Jimmy Butler, who's just being Jimmy Butler. He's just being that star player that Jimmy Butler has been ever since he's been in Chicago. Ever since he took over for D Rose, he's been a star. He just didn't mesh well in Philadelphia. He didn't mesh well with that team at all. So it's different in Miami, and let's be real. Milwaukee doesn't have the firepower like Miami. I mean, other than Chris Middleton, who else on that team is really doing well? Eric Bledsoe is not that go-to scorer third option that's going to help Giannis at the long run. Then you have Brook Lopez, who could be hot and cold each and every game. So Miami is really doing their job. I mean, they won the series against the Bucks during the regular season, and it's just showing into the playoffs. And Miami hasn't even lost a game in the playoffs. Now, if I'm going to be 100% real with you guys, I don't think that was a foul at the end of the game of game 2. I don't think that was a foul. I think that was a very bad call. That was a makeup call, if anything. That was not a foul. That was not a foul. And I mean, unfortunately, the rest did go to replay. And look, they must have saw something I didn't. But I mean, look, at the end of the day, those are our NBA refs, and look, they know what they're doing. So I truly and honestly don't think that was a foul. I think that should have been an overtime. Now, look, anything could have happened in overtime. Miami could have took off. Milwaukee could have took off. It could have been a different story going 1-1 into tonight's game 3. Now, look. Milwaukee's going to have to play like their lives depend on it, because if Miami gets this game, oh man, this might be a sweep or a 5-game series, because Miami is looking like a finals team. And I don't think anybody would have seen this coming, but Miami was one of those consistent teams all year. Like, they played very well at home when the season was going on, and man, they are playing very well in the bubble and in just the playoffs in general. I mean, you get a sweep of Indiana, who I thought would have put up more of a fight, but they didn't. And then you just go ahead and just win 2 games against the best team in the NBA. It's shocking. It is shocking. So game 3 tonight is going to be a big game. This is going to be a big game, and this is going to hurt. This is going to hurt Milwaukee, like, as a franchise, if Milwaukee gets bounced out of the second round, because if I was Giannis, I would leave. Unless they're going to give him a second, like, superstar that to help them, because you do need 2 superstars to play in this league. You can't do it by yourself. I don't care what anybody says. Even back in the day, even back in the day, even back in the day, you had to have 2 superstars. Look, Michael Jordan didn't win until Scottie Pippen got to Chicago. Let's be honest. Magic Johnson wouldn't have won without Kareem. You need two superstars to win in the NBA, and Giannis is by himself. People think Chris Middleton can do it, but he can't. Upload this on YouTube. You're a really great sports speaker. I appreciate it, man. It is on YouTube. If you go ahead, if you go in and type in Excellent Sports Talk on YouTube, it will be there. It will be there. But I really do appreciate the love, man. Thanks, man. So yeah, game 3. This is it. This is a big game for them, and they have to work this one out. So let's continue on to the Western Conference bracket, second round, and we're going to start with the Los Angeles Clippers and the Denver Nuggets. And oh gosh, the Nuggets look overmatched. The Nuggets look really overmatched, man. They had to go a tough 7-round series with the Utah Jazz, and you can just tell that took a lot out of them, because gosh, man, they got overrun by the Clippers Where's ESPN? Give this man a job. Ah, man, ESPN don't know what they're looking at. They tripping. But if they give me a job, they give me a job. If not, I'm gonna just keep doing my thing. Thanks, man. I really do appreciate it, you guys. So yeah, the Clippers look so dominant against the Nuggets. Oh gosh, man. I man, you can just tell this is not going to be a good series for Denver because Jamal Murray had to literally put that team on his back and just go and will themselves past the Utah Jazz, guys. Let me be honest with you, and this is going to be different because the Clippers have defense for days. They can just throw anybody at Jamal Murray, and they're gonna lock him up. Let's be honest with you. Let me be honest. Yeah, Patrick Beverley, who's just relentless on the defensive end. Then you have Kawhi Leonard, who's strong. Then you have Paul George, who is strong. And then you can put Markieff Morris on him. Not Markieff Morris, Marcus Morris on him. And that can work out as well. Oh gosh, like it is tough to find points for the Denver Nuggets in this series. And I think our road's it has to go through Jokic to really get Denver to really get them going on the offensive end, because if he's not having a bad day, Jamal Murray is probably not going to have the best of series with these guys, these animals that play for the Los Angeles Clippers. And then the Denver Nuggets do not have enough supporting cast to really get them over the hump against the Clippers. So to be quite honest with you guys, I see this being a short series, like 5 games. 5 games. I think Denver will find a way to win one, but this is probably going to be a 5-game series. This is probably going to be a 5-game series, guys. So yeah, it's not going to look well for Denver in this series at all. So let's go on to our last series, which is the Los Angeles Lakers and the Houston Rockets. And that's the first game is starting tonight. And honestly, I think this is going to be one of those underrated series that's going to be really good, because Houston is playing well. They're playing great defense. The small ball lineup is working. But this is the Los Angeles Lakers, and the Los Angeles Lakers has some dominant bigs when it comes to JaVale McGee, Dwight Howard, Anthony Davis, and with those 3 guys, with the Houston Rockets playing small ball, I don't think the Rockets is going to have a great time trying to get rebounds over these guys, and that's going to be hard for the Houston Rockets. Because let's think about the Houston Rockets offense, right? Houston Rockets rely heavily on the 3-point shot. And we all know all these guys can shoot on the Houston Rockets. Their starting 5 can shoot. With the exception of Russell Westbrook, I don't think he's that great of a 3-point shooter. He's a streaky shooter. Like once he gets going, he see a few go into the hole. He could catch fire, but he's not the best 3-point shooter. But let's go back to this. If Houston doesn't hit their threes and they go cold, and then you're trying to score in the paint against the Los Angeles Lakers, which is almost nearly impossible because the Lakers have so many shot blockers, it's going to be hard for Houston to come up with points. It's going to be hard. But let's look on the flip side. If Houston Rockets, they're hitting their threes, the Lakers do not defend the 3 well. They don't rotate as well as they should. And with the small ball lineup, that could be trouble for the Lakers. So it's a matter of who's going to stay hot in this series. Because if Houston's not hitting their threes, they're not getting to the paint, scoring over those tall trees the Lakers bring every game. And if the Lakers is not defending the three well, and they're just letting the Rockets just go off doing whatever they do, then the Lakers will be in trouble. I think the Lakers will win in 6 games, and it's gonna be a fun series. I think this series is probably going to be one of the best series in the second round. So that's basically the end of the NBA playoffs. That's topic. That's my just 2 cents on it. Just 2 cents on it. So let's continue on to our last topic, and that is the NFL. The NFL, like I said, is right around the corner. It starts this coming up Thursday, and so we would like to talk about some predictions on or who's going to win week one. And so I have my trusty paper here to show all of the games that are being played this week. So let's get straight into it. So let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs and the Houston Texans. It's a Thursday night game, of course, because Kansas City won the Super Bowl last year. So whoever wins the Super Bowl usually gets the first go. As far as football games. So Kansas City will be playing the Houston Texans, and to be quite honest with you guys, I think this is going to be a rather large win for the Kansas City Chiefs. Because I don't see Houston doing quite as well, because Houston's offense is going to be tough for them to score points without Deshaun Hopkins there anymore. Now that he's gone to Arizona, one of the best receivers in the NFL. With him gone, who else Deshaun Watson has to throw to? So, man, it's going to be tough for Houston. Who would you think be a good sleeper in fantasy? You know what? To be quite honest with you, I don't know too much about fantasy football. But here's the thing. Back when I first started fantasy football, Tyreek Hill was one of those players people slept on because nobody really knew much about Tyreek Hill, but now people are starting to catch on. If you can get Tyreek Hill at a decent round, maybe like a 5th or 6th round pick, and if you can go ahead and get you of course a good running back like an Ezekiel Elliott. I had Saquon Barkley last year. He was hurt like majority of the year, so that didn't help me. If you can get maybe like a Josh Jacobs, he might be a good sleeper as far as running backs. And Tyreek Hill is going to produce points all the time. Tyreek Hill is a stud receiver. So just look at those guys, So I wouldn't quote that because my fantasy game is not like that, but that's what I think. So yeah, so I do think this is going to be a rather large win for Kansas City, coming off a great year last year, winning the Super Bowl, and they basically returned all of their starters who played in the Super Bowl last year, and they gave out a lot of money this year. They gave out a lot of money this year to Patrick Mahomes, Chris Jones. Those two are cornerstone for your team, cornerstone players for your team. So they secured them up. They locked them up. Oh man, Kansas City is going to be primed for another Super Bowl run. So be on the lookout for Kansas City going deep into the playoffs. So I think this is going to be a large win for Kansas City, the first game of the year. easy win for Kansas City. I'm not going to give a score, but I think it's going to be an easy win for Kansas City. So let's continue on to the Sunday games. Sunday, this is when the fun starts. So let's begin with the Atlanta Falcons. I don't know why I said the Atlanta Hawks like it's basketball. The Atlanta Falcons and the Seattle Seahawks. Maybe because I was thinking about the Seahawks, I was going to say the Hawks. So this game is in Atlanta. I think this had the potential to be a really good game, okay? Because you never know with Atlanta. Atlanta is one of those teams that can have a great year one year and then they stink it up next year. So we have to see how Atlanta works this year. They added a new addition with Todd Gurley. That's going to help Matt Ryan out a lot. That's going to help Matt Ryan out a lot, taking a lot of pressure off of him because he had a lot of pressure last year. But the Atlanta defense stunk last year. Oh, my goodness. And they are playing Seattle, who Russell Wilson every year is a stud. So I think Seattle's going to have an easy time scoring. I could be wrong because, like I said, Atlanta, you never know with them each and every year. And they are playing at home. So this could be different. I mean, I don't know. There's no crowd to really, push the Atlanta Hawks. Golly, I'm in basketball world. Thank you. I appreciate that. Keep up the great. Thank you so much. I'm trying. I really am. Yeah. So, this is going to be a good game. I think this is going to be a good game. I'm going to go with Atlanta. I think Atlanta is going to go. You know what? I may have to double back on that one and give Seattle a win because, like I said, there's no crowd. You have nobody to cheer you on. So this is basically talent versus talent. And I think Seattle has a little bit more talent than the Atlanta Hawks. If I say Atlanta Hawks one more time, the Atlanta Falcons. I think they have a little bit more talent with the Seattle Seahawks than the Atlanta Falcons. So I'm gonna go ahead and give Seattle that win. But I think it will be a good game. I think it will be a good game. So let's continue on with the second game. We have the New York Jets versus the Buffalo Bills. And with this, I'm going to go ahead and give Buffalo the win because now with the addition of Stephon Diggs to the already pretty decent offensive game of Buffalo, Josh Allen did a really good job. Taking a step up last year. So I think Buffalo is going to go ahead and get that win. Buffalo has an excellent defense, especially the front seven. And then you have a cornerback in Tre'Davious White who's a stud all around. Tre'Davious White is a great cornerback, and nobody really knows much about him because he plays in Buffalo. Against the New York Jets, who, you never know with New York. They're hot and cold, like a hot and cold team that could be good. Then they couldn't. I mean, so the New York Jets with Sam Darnold and Bell. That's going to be a tough game for Buffalo. Buffalo is a decent team. I think they're going to win the division this year. Now that it's transitioning, now that New England is without Tom Brady, I think this is a transition period. So I think Buffalo has a real legitimate chance of winning the AFC East this year. So I think Buffalo is going to start off strong. They're at home. I mean, it really doesn't matter because New York Jets is in the same state, so they don't really have to travel far. But all in all, I think Buffalo's going to go ahead and get that win and start off their season 1-0. 1-0. So let's continue on to the next one. We're going to talk about Chicago Bears and the Detroit Lions, and the game is in Detroit. And I don't think it's much of a contest here, to be quite honest with you, because Detroit has no talent whatsoever. I'm just being honest with you guys. I think this is a make or break year for Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford has been injured a lot over the past couple of years. And I think if he can stay healthy and have a great year, then I think Detroit will be fine. But I think if Detroit has another bad season like they did last year, I think Matt Stafford could be out the door. I think Matt Stafford could be out the door of Detroit. They'll move on. And Chicago's defense has always been their backbone of that team. You know, with Khalil Mack, Floyd, Fred Jackson in the back, it's just stars all over Chicago's defense. Now, the offense has this always been the pretty bad part about Chicago, because they had Mitchell Trubisky, and oh my gosh, he was horrible last year. He was so horrible last year. Like I think they was trying to get rid of him. I think they was really ready to get rid of him, and with them bringing in Nick Foles, the Chicago Bears, I think it's a short leash for Mitchell Trubisky, a very short leash. So now you bring in Nick Foles, who's proven who's a proven quarterback, won the Super Bowl when Carson Wentz was hurt. He just stepped in. He did an awesome job for Philadelphia. He got his contract in Chicago. It could be time for him to take over that team. And I think if Chicago's offense is at least middle of the pack, like scoring touchdowns, their defense could hold them up. Their defense can hold them up. So say if Chicago's scoring 21 points a game, that defense is going to get them, some quality stops and hold teams to under that. So I think Chicago has potential to be a great team. I'm going to get Chicago to win, and this is a good start to their season. So let's continue on to Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings, and this is going to be a great one right here, a good divisional game right here. The game is in Minnesota, and these are two good teams. Minnesota has been a good team, a playoff team each and every year. Green Bay is Green Bay. You have Aaron Rodgers and Adams. Those two guys are studs. Look, this is a good first week game. I think Minnesota is going to win this game. It's going to be a tight one. I think this game is going to be like a 21 to 18 game. It's going to come down to a field goal. And I'm all for this game. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have another Aaron Rodgers-like season. I think Kirk Cousins is going to have a good season as well. Minnesota plays great defense. Green Bay is, average on defense. So we have to see. But I think this is going to be a close field goal win for Minnesota. Very close. So let's continue on to the Miami Dolphins and the New England Patriots. Cam Newton is now there, and I think he's going to have a great bounce back year. He has a lot to prove, with Carolina basically kicking him out the door for like the past 2 seasons. They was trying everything in their power to get Cam Newton out. So now now he's gone to New England. He left Carolina. I think it's going to be an easy win for New England. It's a divisional game. Miami, Miami still has a lot to figure out. Their team is not exactly that good, but I mean, I think next year, I think for the years to come, they'll be okay with Tua Tagovailoa. I butchered the name. Sorry. Okay. When he jumps into quarterback, I think they'll become a little bit better. But they're still rehabbing his hip because he had a really nasty hip injury in his senior year at Alabama. So they're still trying to work him in. So I think it's going to be another down year for Miami. It's going to be the bottom feeders of the division like they usually are, which stinks. But yeah, I think New England's going to come out and handle their business and do what they have to do against Miami. So let's continue on to the next game, which is Philadelphia Eagles versus the Washington football team. And so this game is in Washington, and Washington has a lot to work out. I think if Chase Young is disrupting a lot of stuff in the backfield against Philadelphia and causing problems for Carson Wentz, they could be into the game. I don't think their offense and Washington is going to keep up because their offense is not good because Dwayne Haskins, he has a lot to work out. This is a prove it year in his second year. I'm not going to count him out because he doesn't really have a large sample size of games, but I think Philadelphia is going to go ahead and get that divisional win. That's going to be a good win for Philadelphia to start them off because that division is usually always a tight, close division. Even though that division has been bad over last year, but it's always a close one between Philadelphia and the Dallas Cowboys. So I think Philadelphia is going to start the season off really good. So let's continue on to the next game, which is the Las Vegas Raiders versus the Carolina Panthers. This game is in Carolina. And I honestly think it's going to be a tough game for Las Vegas because they have to travel very far to Carolina. That's all the way across the United States. In Carolina, they're going through a lot of transitional phases. They have to bring in Teddy Bridgewater, who is a very serviceable quarterback who did an excellent job filling in for Drew Brees last year when he went down with his thumb injury. Now he's a starter. I don't know if he can lead his team. Now that this is his team, I don't know if he can lead them to victory. But man, he's got a lot of help with Christian McCaffrey. And it's going to be different. Las Vegas has recently upped their defense, bringing in Corey Littleton, who's a great linebacker from the Los Angeles Rams. Then they bring in Nick Koklowski, or however you say his name, from the Chicago Bears, who's another excellent linebacker. And they're bringing back talent such as Jonathan Abrams. He's back healthy, and then they have some new corners that they have to pretty much work in. So this is going to be, if the Las Vegas defense can keep them in the game, I think Derek Carr with his new with that offense, now they have Henry Ruggs, who's a fast receiver that can basically run by everybody, and Josh Jacobs going into his second year, who was a stud as a rookie. But now that people know he's a stud, they're probably going to stack 8 in the box, and this might leave a lot for the passing game. So this is a make or break year for Derek Carr. I think if Derek Carr doesn't produce like he did in 2016, where he was like an MVP candidate before he messed up his leg, I think it's going to be tough for Las Vegas. But to be quite honest, I think Carolina is going to get the win. I think Carolina's going to go ahead and do what they have to do. I think it's going to be hard to stop Christian McCaffrey because he's one of the top backs in the NFL. So I think Carolina's going to go ahead and get that win. So let's continue on with Indianapolis and Jacksonville. And Jacksonville, I think this is going to be a tank year for them because I think they're really trying to set up for to get Trevor Lawrence next year from Clemson. So Gardner Minshew is going to go ahead and go through the season, this last season, and they're probably going to try to replace him. And then they just gave up. They just basically gave up on Leonard Fournette, who played well last year, which is surprising. So I don't know what that was about. So Indianapolis, now that Phillip Rivers is starting a new chapter. He's not with Los Angeles anymore. He's been with the Chargers for such a long time. It's going to be weird for him to see him in a different uniform. So I'm gonna go ahead and give Indianapolis Colts the win. I think they're going to go ahead and go into Jacksonville and handle their business. So let's continue on with Cleveland. The Cleveland Browns versus the Baltimore Ravens, a divisional game. And this is going to be a good game. I think this is going to be a very good game. Cleveland last year was one of those teams that did beat Baltimore, and we thought this was like the turning point for Cleveland, but that wasn't the case at all. So now that Freddie Kitchens is out of the picture, this could be a different look for Cleveland. But to be quite honest, I think Baltimore is going to go ahead and handle their business and get the win. Baltimore is, oh man, it's totally fine. It's totally fine. Go ahead and get your workout in, man. So yeah, so I think Baltimore is going to go ahead and get the win. Get there a good divisional win, and that's usually always a tight division there, as always. So I'm going to go ahead and say Baltimore is going to get that win for the second time. I'm going to speed it up a little bit. So continue on. We have New Orleans versus Tampa Bay, and this is going to be, I think, the best week one game out of all of them. Now that we have Tom Brady now playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and now Leonard Fournette is going to sign with the Tampa Bay Bucks, and with Gronkowski, Mike Evans, and Goodwin all playing for Tampa Bay. That offense is going to be A1, and that was their problem last year because Jameis Winston was a turnover machine. Oh my goodness. Jameis Winston for Tampa Bay was a turnover machine. And now that that's not going to be the case, Tampa Bay might be one of the top teams in the NFL this year. And because their defense was already good. And now New Orleans, who was always a playoff team, as long as you have Drew Brees, Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas there, and then their defense is okay. Defense is okay to keep them in games. That's going to be a good team. Oh man, this is going to be a tough one to predict. But I think Tampa Bay is going to win. I don't know. You know what? I'll take that back. I think New Orleans is going to win. I think Tampa Bay still has some stuff to figure out because it's kind of hard. You don't have preseason games, so you never know. They might not mesh well together already. So I think New Orleans, who's already established team, is going to go ahead and win this game. So I'm going to go ahead and give New Orleans that win. They are playing at home, so I think that's going to be a win for New Orleans. So let's go ahead and continue on with the Los Angeles Chargers and the Cincinnati Bengals. And with this game, I think this is going to be a win for the Bengals, actually, because Los Angeles just do not have the talent. It's no more Drew Brees, and it's starting Tyrod Taylor, who's an okay quarterback, but I don't think I don't think he's going to last much into the season. I think they're going to eventually get Herbert into the that starting quarterback position. I think Joe Burrow is going to have a good first game as a starter in the NFL, because he's a good game manager and quarterback, I think, in my eyes. And he played well in LSU, and I think that confidence is going to come over to the NFL. So I'm going to go ahead and get Cincinnati at win. Let's continue on. We're going to go ahead and go through this quickly. San Francisco 49ers versus Arizona. I'm going to go ahead and get San Francisco that win. I think Arizona still has some things to figure out because they're still a young team. I think it's going to help now that they added a couple of good pieces. So, but I think San Francisco is still the cream of the crop. They play great defense, and the offense is. I think the offense is going to be a little bit shaky because they kind of move some things around, but I think it's going to keep them in game. So I'm going to go ahead and get San Francisco to win. And so the late night game for Sunday night, it's the Los Angeles Rams versus the Dallas Cowboys. And that was going to be a big game if they have fans, because we all know there's a lot of Cowboys fans in California. And then Los Angeles opening their new stadium up. Man, that would have been a big game if it was going to be if it was going to be fans. But anyway, so let me go ahead and get my predictions. I think Los Angeles is going to go ahead and get that win. I think they're going to bottle up Ezekiel Elliott because Aaron Donald is a stud. Oh, gosh, it's hard to stop Aaron Donald. And I don't think Dak Prescott is one of those quarterbacks that's going to get you wins. So I'm going to go ahead and give Los Angeles that win. So we got the Monday night games, which is the New York Giants and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think Pittsburgh's going to win that game. Ben Roethlisberger is coming back, and I think he's going to play well for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so let's go ahead and end it real quick with the last game of the week, which is the Denver Broncos versus the Tennessee Titans. And I see Tennessee winning this game. I think it's hard to stop Derrick Henry because he's a force. And I think if Tannehill plays, like he plays, just being that great game manager that he is, I think they'll go ahead and get that win. So that's basically the end of that. And I appreciate everybody who came out to the show. As always, we're going to be here at the same time next week, noon to 1 Pacific Standard Time. And I can't wait to see you guys as always. Yeah, I appreciate you coming through. And if you guys are on Twitch, I'm going to go ahead and send you over to Ashley. I think she is still playing Apex. She is. So if you go over there, say what's up and tell her I sent you. And so I will be back next week. And till next time, we'll have some more great topics on X's Sports Talk. So I'll see you later. Peace.